Well, tonight with Dr. Sharples, thank you very much indeed for joining us on the programme today.
Pleasure.
The first Maori MP to speak in Parliament 140 years ago was Taraha Te Moana Nui. He said, "The thoughts of Maori people are not similar to the thoughts of the Europeans. They lie in a different direction." Is that still true?
Very true, and I think that's one of the impediments to development of Maori initiatives nowadays. People seem to judge us through perhaps Western eyes and don't see the relevance of some issues that we do. And especially with regard to the concept of tangata whenua and what that means in terms of how you relate to your environment and these islands and everybody else.
Because many Pākehā New Zealanders would say, well, we've been here 5 generations, we're tangata whenua.
Great. Well, and they are in that sense. But doesn't make us any less tangata whenua than, say, their tangata whenua. Incidentally, Te Moana Nui was my ancestor.
Right.
From Hawke's Bay, Ngāti
So it does run in the family.
It runs in the family, totally runs in the family. It's good that people regard themselves as being of this place. But, all I'm saying is we've been here for over 1,000 years and we know all our ancestors and the history and stuff like that. And that's cool.
Is the Maori Party then just for Maori, or is it for anyone who agrees with what you stand for?
The Maori Party is here to defend the rights of Maori and to advance any aspirations that Maori have. But you see, in doing so, we're here for New Zealand. You see, we're making this a place where there's all voices are heard. What's good for Maori has got to be good for New Zealand. We can't go on, and a lot of Maori stats are negative, and we can't go through life like that. We've got to have a even out. So that's why we're good for New Zealand. We're really a whole of New Zealand. We're here for New Zealand nationhood, but there's a bit of repair got to be done first.
Because I think a lot of people maybe were surprised to find that when they read your policies, they actually were, it was strong on family, it was strong on law and order, it was actually very mainline in lots of ways.
And that reflects in itself what people think of Maori to a certain extent. They weren't expecting any big deal. I thought we're jumping up and down about the foreshore and seabed, and that's the end of the matter. In fact, we speak on everything, whether it's tax or whether it's immigration or whether it's to do with a park in Palmerston North, whatever. Any issue is our issue.
You mentioned the foreshore and seabed. That, of course, was the key issue that got the party started.
It did.
It's not really gone away, has it? It's just gone quiet.
No, it's right on our agenda. I mean, we have to pursue that goal to repeal that act, and we will pursue the goal. And but it doesn't stop us championing other things equally important or even more important, like education, health, and those really poverty, perhaps violence, a lot of those issues which are right up front in our society.
I guess a lot of people would expect you to align yourselves with Labour in that your co-leader Tariana Turia is a former Labour MP.
Yes.
A lot of your policies are on that sort of socialist end of the scale. Do you lean towards Labour as a potential coalition partner? We
lean towards ourselves, really. It's very hard to get this across to the general public that we don't see ourselves as a right or left thing. We see ourselves as a Maori thing that's good for New Zealand, going up the middle, if you like. And some of our things are quite clearly in Labour's court, and other things are quite clearly in National's court. But at the end of the day, they're quite similar, aren't they? We would say that they're quite similar. And the difference between us and both of them is quite marked.
Would you go into a coalition agreement with either, or would you stick with confidence and supply?
What we would look to do is to look for an opportunity to stay authentic to our people. We're actually the first authentic voice that Maori have had in Parliament, in the sense that there's no big party body sitting on top of us saying, no, you can't vote for that, this is how we'll vote, and so on. What we have instead are at this time, 4, soon to be 7 Maori constituent MPs whose people tell them what they should do. And being Maori, it's the same thing basically. So we're very lucky that we're able to represent our constituents in terms of what they really want, and we wouldn't be in a rush to give that away.
The Maori seats are, judging by the latest opinion polls, they seem to be swinging pretty much in your favour, but that puts under threat quite a few Maori MPs in other parties.
It doesn't interest me, the Maori MPs in other parties. I want to be very clear about that, because they don't have an independent voice. They're required to vote according to the party. It's very important that the Māori Party works very hard to get 7 seats this time. And then maybe next time we can look at some of the general electorates and perhaps stand some people in those.
Is there a danger that with the Māori seats that Māori issues become effectively marginalised because it's Māori MPs, Māori seats, Māori voters,
right,
and it sort of sits in a little ghetto all of its own and doesn't impinge on the rest of us even when it should?
Māori issues are marginalised now because they are not given the due respect that they should. They're voted on in terms of mainstream philosophy, and so they fit right outside. For example, Māori language, the money spent on if you like, promoting the growth of Māori language is so minimal compared to, say, what Wales has done, what Ireland's done, and what other places are able to do. And part of the reason for that is that it's not realised emotionally by the mainstream governments and opposition. It's just say, oh yeah, that would be nice kind of idea. But for us, it's die or live. Like we march to protect whales on the other side of the kiwi bird, kakapo. We the kauri tree, all these things. But the people of the place, the indigenous people of the place, we're quite prepared to let them fade out. Because if Maori dies, the culture dies. The language dies, the culture dies. And if it dies in New Zealand, it's gone. There's no other place. So that's why it's very, very important that we fight for those things.
The Christian parties, I've heard arguments that the Christian parties, by doing their own thing, rather than working from within the big parties who inevitably will be the lead partner in any coalition, they lose that power to do anything. Would it not be better to get so many Maori MPs within a major party that they can influence the major parties rather than working from without?
That's what I thought when I stood for Parliament. But being in the system, I realise that party politics is so strong that the group of Labour Maori MPs have to vote one way. The group of national ones, New Zealand First, they all vote their own way. Absolutely nothing to do with the kaupapa, the topic, and how that relates to the Maori people. It's what suits the party in terms of the vote, and that's why, to me, it's irrelevant. It could do so much for New Zealand to have a strong Maori voice in Parliament that was in control of its own vote, and I'm sure then they'd have power, and then they could effect some change.
Well, it's great to meet you. Thank you very much for joining us on the programme.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.